This is Andromeda. I'm getting ready to do the molding on this one, but I thought it would be good to share how to prep a sculpture for molding. I think one of the most intimidating things about starting mold is making sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row before we get into the process, because the materials are expensive and the sculpture is priceless, and so we learn as we go, and hopefully our skill improves as we go, so we can look back and maybe realize things weren't such a loss. But let me share what I know, and maybe this will make a difference. Okay.
So what I'm going to do is remove the arms here to make this sculpture more simple. I mean, not the sculpture, good lord. To make the mold more simple. Okay. Stuff like this just really complicates, and you ask yourself in the end, why did I make so much work for myself? So just cut this right here. These are easy areas to patch, and right here. So the first thing I need to do is make registration marks. Yeah, mine as well. So that was pretty painful. So my tool, and I'm going to get in there and do some surgery, is, about yay big. So I need to make sure that I can get that tool inside of there to get that squared away. So what I might want to do, it's going to be easier to fix this one, is to make that a little longer. Just give yourself an inch, that registration. Try to keep it straight and connected. I might even go a little longer. Okay. Now the fun part is we're going to get in there with this ceramic. This is for cutting your pots off of the bats for the throwing wheels. So you can go to your ceramic store or go online, Amazon, and go ahead and purchase this. Anyway, we're just going to slip it through there without tearing up her face too much. I'm trying to do this for the camera, so forgive me if I cut you out for a second. Okay, now remember which way you pull. Left over right or right over left. So I just went left over right. And as I pull, I can feel resistance. And you can see how much just pulling a wire through your sculpture tears it up. Yep, we're going to have to gingerly Alright, I'm just going to move on down. So we're looking for the height of our cutting tool. And now this one's a little more important because this is where I'm going to make my mold. The first one I'm going to patch up, but right now, did I just do I was talking. Anyway, I think I got it right here. Okay. So there's the clay that I lost off the wire from the inside. And I'd say that's not too terribly bad. But you can see now how the width of my clippers can get in there easily and cut that. Let me just get this one done. This is probably the most painful part of the whole process. Switch that because I don't want this wood thing hitting her in the nipples. Okay, so this time I'm going right over left. Okay, I feel resistance. I'm not making any more. Very gingerly remove it. Move down the length of the tool, or the width. And this is going to be my mold line, right over left. There's some clay, and I saw some ricochet. So what I'm going to do next is, while I have this in this state, get these little excessive boogers. Not much. Don't get neurotic. Just, they're fine. So I want to push down where I lifted up the sculpture. It kind of flared out a little bit. I just want to keep that tight. I don't need stuff getting all cattywampus when it goes back together, so I'm just gently giving it a pat or a little squeeze. And that's why I was removing those little boogers. And don't squeeze it flat, you know. We're just trying to keep the form relative to itself. We don't want things flaring out. I've put sculptures back together in the casting material, and when the mold maker didn't push that back, there's a part flared out, and you know that all trickles downhill. Okay, so we can see we still have our parting line. There you can see it, and there we can see it. So I'm not going to use this line as the cut line. We're going to go close to it. We don't want to tamper with that. We want to make sure that that stays true. I'm not sure where the wire is, even though I felt it. It's generally in the middle. So I have to point this tool. And as you push in, just be gentle. Here's what we're going to do, okay? We're going to use an X-Acto blade. Try to get in here as surgically as possible. And I'm just poking There we go. I've got resistance. So I know that that's the bone. And I'm going to trace along it till I get to the bottom here. And then this side also, the same thing. I hope you guys can see this okay. Yep, sweet. I hit bone right away. And okay, we've got our cut here. This is how we're going to open it up. And our cuts top and bottom. And this one is going to be the one that we mend on both sides. We're going to end up mending that and mending that. And that's going to be our cut for our molding. Okay, and that's going to be our registration line, which ultimately we're going to leave the bottom and this down. We'll cover the rest back up when we patch it up. Okay, and that'll help us put that back together perfectly. See inside of there? Okay. I'll just let you see that from all sides there. So, you know, my cutter is on this side. So I want to make sure that if, you know, I put it on that side, I'm okay with the wires sticking up in the mold. I can turn the cutter side on this side and try to get it as flush as possible. Okay, so that's cut. This is a dental tool in case you're wondering. In case. I just want something broader. There we go. To kind of get that apart. So we can see inside of there also. And I don't know that I can get a clean cut. There I can. Okay, so I want to hold this because this cut is going to let it fall. Oops. Remember, flat side down toward the side to mold. We can kind of set them back on there and get an idea of what we just removed. So So you can see like the different angles with the arms, putting it back on. Some people are more particular than others. If you cast this in bronze, your welder, if he's worth his weight in salt, will be able to get that line back up. Especially if you leave those registration marks on there enough, and then they'll use these outer lines to help connect it. Okay. So there's that. And plus, while this is off, with these removed, there's areas that I wasn't able to get into because of her head and stuff like that. So I can get underneath here and double check this now and make sure this is the way that I want it. And on that same token, this allows me access inside of areas like here and here and here that I wasn't able to get to before also. Okay. Okay, just to close, I touched up the cuts here. If you want to trim the wire inside back a little bit so it goes together a little better, because when you cut the wire it actually lifts the wire, like squeezes it and then cuts it. So if you want to trim that back, do it before you touch it up there. But you know, keep working it until you have the fit that you want. You know, be slow, careful, calculated with your touch-ups. I'm going to do more work to this. I've only been touching it up for about 5 minutes or so. You can resize, incise, re-incise your registration cut after you get it back on there. You know, and you determine that's right. You know, get your tool and kind of, you know, again. And the edges here will slightly flare out from pulling the wire through, so I just gently lifted them up. And as they came up, I just kind of pulled them over the edge a little bit. And if that causes a problem when you're putting this back together, it's a lot easier to grind that off than to have it sticking out and, you know, trouble lining up your forms. So another tip that I want to give you is with calipers. So if you have your calipers here, you can decide where the wire is inside of these, and then you can register with the wire to make sure you're lined up with the wire. And especially when you're molding, make sure that those are lined up just so. Or because if these end up coming apart, if you have a situation like this, it's going to mold ill-aligned, and then you're going to have to be dealing with everyone after that. So the other thing is when you have the wire cut back, sometimes it'll leave a little hole or divot, so get a little bit of clay and touch that up so you don't have silicone running in there. Okay, when we go to mold this, we will put like a plug anyway on top of it on both sides, so that as the silicone goes up past it, you know, we have some way to get the casting material inside the mold. So there we go. I think it looks pretty good. We did a good job. And if you have any questions, go ahead and write a line in the comments, and I try to get back to you within 24 hours. So this is good. I'll finish touching that up and we'll be set. So next stop is going to be Molding Express. You can see how much easier that's going to be to cast that as a two-piece mold versus trying to come up with something really wild for that. This will be so much easier. Alright you guys, life is good. I hope that helped. I hope it helped. You guys are great. You have greatness inside you. Let's get out of the way so it can shine. Get out of your own way.